An important note before you dive into this conversation. If you're looking for price predictions, this isn't the video for you. If you're curious about consciousness, ego, and truth, stay with us. Note that some parts of the video include on-screen text. This isn't the conversation I planned to have with Jeff. It's the one I didn't know I needed. I hope our shared vulnerability unlocks something within you too.
By you sharing this, by the way, Danielle, I'm hoping other people will see it in themselves too.
Many of us feel like we're watching humanity act out a movie we know doesn't end well. You've said we create the world we see, and I completely agree with you. How do you perceive that paradox? Mentally in truth, physically in a collective illusion?
Wow, we're going straight there. Um, uh, so how do you even answer this? So in the intro to your book that I wrote, I talked about different people in different parts of the world. Just imagine somebody living in a forest and have no idea of the economic model of the world. Their reflection back to them would be true for them. Completely true. Imagine a different person in a different reality, and that reflection back to the world that they see is true for them. And same with me. So there's these, I would say, layers of truth that you're discovering. Probably your consciousness as well, discovering what is true. And we spend so much of our time worried about what other people are doing. Right. It's so even the question, right? What is, or it assumes that everybody else is wrong and we're right. And here's the true truth, right? This is the real one. And, and that's why that collection of everybody going through that in their own time, in their own way, and in their own world is the fabric of reality that we live in. And I would say that that measure that you measure, right? So you've probably heard me say this numerous times, but we look at our own photo first, right? When you take, if somebody takes a picture of a group, you look at you, how do you look? Right? You're the center of your own movie, which is ironic, you being the center of your own movie, and then spending most of your time wondering what other people are doing, right? In relation to your movie. And so that just is. It's what you see the most people doing, right? And so if that's what it is, I don't know if there's any. Is it working for them? Can you learn something from them? Can you? What is it? Their truth. What does it look like to them? And what does it look like to you? Without they're doing something to me. They should live my way.
Well, there's quite a few questions about concern with other people, so something I'm working through, I guess. What I find difficult is that the truth that we're talking about isn't my truth or your truth. It's objective truth. These are first principles, universal laws, objective truth. And the collapse concerns me as well. It concerns my loved ones. I really care about them, and I'd love for them to see this world where, like, I've moved into, but I see them suffering. I guess that's where the pain point is for me.
Yeah, and I think what ends up happening is, so just think about yourself going through this. So we're talking about Bitcoin and objective truth with that objective truth is never matched, never in history matched a perceived truth of how the world works. Right? So that objective truth of how the free market should work, right, or does work, and meaning we've never lived in one, would obviously cascade. It would be so hard to understand. It would be so hard to come out of the cave, Plato's cave, to realize there was nothing to fear. It was always there. But because our entire identity, who we think we are, would be wrapped up in the other perceived truth. So facing that new, even though that it's objective, right? That it would be really easy to discount, or it would be too much. And how would you discount it? If it's too much, a lot of times what ends up happening, if it's too much for your brain, you just throw stones at somebody else. They're too deep, right? They're too deep. And that person who does care, who really cares, right, then grabs onto that so deep because they want to help, right? But by doing that, you end up actually pushing the person away because they're just not ready to hear it. And so, um, I think for me, anyways, I just realized that the entire fabric of what people believe is true for them, right? And in time, here's a different way to say it. I think your real life is determined by the quality of your consciousness, not the money you have, but the quality of your consciousness is the thing that drives your relationships. Ability to see the best in others, not ability to see through love that we're all connected. That and if it's that, if the quality of consciousness is that, then it shouldn't matter what somebody else does and how they want to live their life. You might be able to learn something really profound from them in the way that they do something and not have to hold on to everything they do. So that care, right? I think a lot of times in what we're talking about, that care for others comes across not as care for others. It comes across as, I know something you don't. I'm smarter than you. I belong to this other group that is smarter, more conscious, more aligned, and it feels like not love. It feels like a differentiation in power. I'm not saying it has to do that, but I know I'm jumping around here a lot, but I think it's important. I think through why we belong to groups, in group bias, out group bias, and it's kind of that love and belonging and connection. But if you belong to a group, it's unlikely that you think your group is exactly the same, even with all other groups. You probably, because you belong to that group, you believe your group is somehow superior to other groups. Otherwise, you wouldn't belong. Why would you belong to it if it wasn't better, somehow better? But that's how everybody in their other groups feels too, right? I remember thinking this in YPO in my forum, and the forum was how our forum was the best, and I couldn't stop but smile, right? Wondering, everyone else thinks that their forum is the best, otherwise they wouldn't be in their forum. And so I take these universal lessons, what everyone else does. You realize I must too, right? And so then I try to use that to be able to soften the edges of where I would do it too, and see others for who they are.
I know I'm going to need time to process this. I feel like I'm going to look back in 3 months and be like, why didn't I ask Jeff this? But I guess in a way, you've spoken about not taking things personally. A lot of what we're talking about challenges people's perception of self and seeing the genius in others as a way to stay connected. And to be super honest, I've been feeling disconnected from other people lately. And I think beyond wanting to help others, because I thought this through, I was like, is it a desire to be right? And of course, there's my ego. Like, of course, sometimes I do want to be right, you know? But I was thinking, I really feel like beyond that, there's a deeper desire to be seen and understood. Love and belonging, of course.
Love and belonging.
And so I wanted to ask you if you ever went through that on your journey, maybe before you wrote your book. Did you feel a sense of loneliness or something that you needed to grieve, and just letting go of other people maybe not seeing this?
Honestly, Danielle, I don't know if I've ever felt what you just described. I don't think I've ever felt lonely. I feel, and that's probably my family structure growing up, my friends, but I've never felt that, and that specific lesson, right? That specific lesson. I've always felt I can be by myself, completely by myself, and feel and feel totally okay. I can be with tons of people, friends, and depth of relationships is crazy, because I care about them like that. Whether they care about me like that or not, it's how I feel the other way. And I think that's that what drives um, that connection. It kind of a mirror back that I just honestly have never felt that. And I'm not saying I can't empathize with what it would feel like. And I see people from, that's why I use that victim analogy quite often, or you and I have talked about it before. Because it's easy to see a victim analogy, or that person where they're trying to get love and belonging so hard that they're creating more drama to get people to come to them. And it would be really lonely, right? To try to get love. And they're pushing so hard against trying to get it that they're pushing it away, and it's all around them all the time. And why I use that specific example is then because everybody knows a victim. Maybe they are a victim, or in some part of their life, they're a victim, or they know a victim. And everybody goes, yep, that's exactly what they do. But they never do turn the mirror around to themselves. What do you do to push it away? And so the real insights, and so there were lots of things I did to push away, just not in that role, right? In different roles. And I for sure wanted to be smarter, right? Wanted to be more intelligent. Probably a reason I read still 50 books a year and have for a long time is I wanted to know things. I was curious and everything else. And that would be my thing for some time, that I had ego around, that would, I know more than somebody else. That would be the thing. And the more that you do that, the more you push people away because they don't feel like they belong. And the more you feel isolated. So, so there's all these sorts of things, but I think they all arise from the same thing I said. I think superordinate to every other action that you do is love and belonging. And it's abundant. And if it's not abundant in your life, it's nobody else but you.
I agree with you, Jeff. I think the problem is I don't see it. I don't see where it's coming from. So this is helpful. um, so thank you. You shared that you grew up in a loving family,
Yeah.
and sorry. um, I think this is beautiful. And you never saw yourself as a victim, even in a fiat world that rewards victimhood. And many of us, including myself, had an opposite childhood: conditional love, control,
Uh-huh.
fear. And so as a kid, I had to fight the lies around me to
Yeah.
keep the flame of truth alive.
Yep.
And so I think it comes from there, probably. Um, I was curious to understand what it's like growing up as an adult with a strong foundation in childhood.
Yeah. So I would say virtually all my relationships have always been really healthy because it was modeled for me through, and you don't know it was modeled. But a lot of things that you do, so let's go deeper on this issue with you or anyone that's listening. A lot of the stories that you tell yourself on how you show up in the world, they're actually kind of from way back in your childhood, that something happened, and it might not have even happened to you. It might have been the way you perceived it. And because your parent or whoever, they might have perceived it totally different, right? So if you, like, our memories are not great, but an emotional thing, the triggered a memory that then you repeat over and over and over. And I'd like to think about it as you're still your 5-year-old child repeating the same pattern. Um, and I had different ones, right? Not cause, but I had different ones, and I did the same thing. At 11 years old, our family lost everything in the 81 collapse, and that was a real struggle time for our family, and probably for a long time. Not probably, I know my 11-year-old child said, I am never going to let my family go through this. I'm going to make so much money, it's never going to happen, right? And it doesn't matter how much money I make. It doesn't. My family is more important than anything else. So those two almost totally different things that were driving me, but I didn't see them until I was probably early in my 20s. And and when I asked why, why was it? Why was I driving so hard on those things? Why was it so? And I thought it was also my success. And you could easily come into and say, I have to do this for my success. And you could push away, it could get harder and harder. I realized that it didn't have to look like that. It could look like it was my story. I could just rewrite the story and unlock that thing that was driving that. And then the energy to be able to create whatever I wanted was just totally different energy. But truthfully, and if I said on my journey, I didn't know that. I didn't know that into my 20s, and I was repeating a pattern that I didn't see. I use this example, and I think about this often, in everyone I meet and everyone in myself. You just said if you said your sum total of all, you are that square box right here. Everything that you did in your past, right? Your own personal past led you to this moment right now with you and I talking. And it's the only moment that matters. There's no other moment right now that matters. And all of the past, all of the pain, challenges, and everything else in your past, mine too, and all the great things led us to this moment. If you go back further, right, not just from you, if you go to your parents, right, and you go to the 4 parents that raised your parents, and you go to the 8 parents that raised the 4 parents, and you go to 16 parents, and you think about the cascading of challenges that each person had in their lives that didn't see or challenges, success, love, crazy success, crazy heartbreaks, the deaths, the travesties, all of that was through people trying to make their best way in life and repeating typically the same pattern that was passed down from them to pass to you. You do that same thing. And what you find is all of this infinite opportunity choice. You get hit by a car, grandparent gets hit by a car, you're not here, right? All of these things that could have happened to put us in this together right now, right? That this moment can create infinite choice for you, literally infinite, this moment, but it's the only moment that can. But most people, because we're so stuck in our own movie and the why defending our own movie, our choices are very limited. And people keep on replaying their same movie over and over and over again. And they can't hear, sometimes they can't even hear somebody bring into view that something that could challenge their movie, right? Because they don't want to hear what can challenge this movie because it's their identity. And they feel like if they lose that identity, they lose themselves, right? But it doesn't have to. And so any single, if you just went back to this moment created by you and I, right? And to create this moment, all of my past, all of your past had to create this moment, then we have a moment where both of us could come away completely changed and see new opportunities, right? But it often doesn't happen, right? Because people are listening to that moment through all of their baggage, through all of their nonsense and everything else. So they're so wanting to belong, they're so wanting to matter that they tune out what's always there all around them. And so even when I'm saying this, I realize that a whole bunch of people that will listen to this watching through their movie will feel like, oh no, that's not true, right? Because they can't let it be true because it'll break what's said. So if this is happening and this is how we create, that perception creates everything around us. It creates our reality. And this, what I'm saying is pretty simple. It's true, right? It's true. You can see it in everyone else. It's in you. Then how do you have a bar on your own movie to make sure that you can error correct your movie so it serves you well. So it can touch people in a different way than you pushing your story onto them, right? So you can unlock all the potential in you, the infinite potential in you. How do you have a bar that's really high so you can keep doing that, and see genius in everyone else and go, that's incredible. I want to take what that is into this. I don't have to take all the nonsense. Right? I don't have to take if they're crazy in 99% of the world, what they do, which is not really normal. But just assume. But you can just take the 1% of their genius. You don't have to be more important than them to make them look bad and talk about their 99%. Just talk about the 1%. Just take the best. So I spoke at a consciousness seminar. I don't know if I told you about this, but funny enough, in that, some leading thought leaders in the world, and it was really interesting. But there was I've never seen it before, but there was a light behind me that only turned on with energy. So it wasn't electrical or anything. It only turned on with energy. And in my talk in this room, you could feel it. You could feel it. But it was, they said afterwards, it was just pulsing green. Like and you could feel the energy in the room. But all of those people are now Bitcoiners. And like it happened in an instant, and it happened from that energetic connection. But it was from something you're touching on that I'll try to do it. I might butcher how I say this, but if all of the things that come into our world are from our mind, right? The physical reality is a manifestation of our mind that we create, right? You know that's objectively true. We know that's true. Everything. The physical reality is out of our mind. But to build the physical reality, it has to go through this broken transmission mechanism from our mind to this control structure. Then once you're in the control structure and measuring physical reality to try to understand that everything is mind in the consciousness, from that perspective, the perspective I'm talking about would be impossible to see because you're trapped in the physical reality created from the break out of the consciousness. So were to be your own consciousness repeating back from itself, caused by the physical reality that was caused by a break in something that was so pure, that was so easy, right? And from that trap, you would be trapped forever. You just keep on repeating, thinking there's no way out of that physical reality. But it was created from an ugly manifestation of what is money, right? Right? From a control structure. I understand why everybody could live in there and repeat and believe that that's their perception of reality, and their perception of reality is true. And it has to, if everything is mind, then it has to touch everything going through this break. And from that physical, and so how do you break? This is what I said today to the group of people that were conscious leaders. I said, so you could escape that by living in a cave, right? But if you left out of the cave, if you meditated every day and left out of the cave, as soon as you went back to deal with physical reality, it would be hard to hold that energy. And you'd go back to being stuck. And when I see people on plant medicine and such, it's actually what I think is happening is exactly that. They're seeing a oneness. They're seeing that everything's connected. But to try to hold that, going back to their reality, is impossible to hold. So it's true for them for a moment while they're in the plant medicine, and then they move back. Whereas it always should look like that. And if money was fixed, it will look like that. Because everything comes from mind.
Were they aware about systemic programming, or is that something that was discussed?
Other than Bitcoin, no. So, but again, some of there were a couple of Zen masters and the people who had worked with the Dalai Lama and some of the seers and such different. So some very spiritual, very but all trying to tackle this from a different perspective. There were, and so when I said the green light, that wasn't just my energy. It was I think it was the group energy. It was energy in the room. Um, but yeah, I don't know specifically systematic programming. I suspect that if they're at that level and talking about that, then they're aware of that. But Bitcoin was very new for them.
Yeah.
Very, very new. In fact, there was some resistance, some real resistance, because I think from that, this is what your book does a good job too, is connects seas of knowledge, right? That aren't connected, and it's the same understanding.
That's why I'm having a hard time connecting with my target audience. Technically, I wrote it for women in personal development and spirituality, and they're the last people interested in this work, which is so surprising, but also I understand because I'm not known in the space. We've all been scammed. There's a lot of like false hope, false truths. Like, for example, abundant money creates abundance everywhere. Clearly that's false. I mean,
Yeah, totally.
so I understand why there's a lot of resistance. I think hopefully eventually they'll come to it because clearly your discussion it unlocked something because they're
Yeah,
so close to seeing it too.
yeah, and that's the thing. But it definitely unlocked something in all of them, and they all followed up and they all moved. So it for sure unlocked. But and I think, and maybe that's one of those things you can do over a 3-day retreat and a keynote or and deep talking it because you're close to people and they start to see something, and it's hard to pick up a book. Right. So I think I think you just keep going where you're going, and a lot of those people will see it. I wrote a book called Price of Tomorrow: Why Deflation is Key to an Abundant Future. And you have no idea how many people came at it and said, who is this crazy person, right? That deflation, that's not no, that's it. So in all the trained economists and then when it's crazy, right? I laugh at it. And then when there was a massive printing of money, the amount of people that said, told you so, where was the deflation? I'm like, did you read the book? it's wild. It's wild. And still do, because they're from their perception of what the world looks like. Your perception of what the world looks like is moving this game beyond money, right? And what it's looking like that, and where that, and so it doesn't matter what other people think. If most people live in the middle and are reinforcing their belief patterns from the middle, it would have to look like that. If you said something that was different, I was at a core scientific board meeting the other day, and somebody's and they there was a comment on kind of what we did in the transaction and how far out to create a lot of value. And I said exactly that. I'm totally okay with people throwing stones, like completely okay, right? That's like part of the thing being out of the edge and understanding, and why I do so much work to kind of, is that right? Is the opportunity comes from knowing that 99% of people don't know it, and they're going to eventually know it. It doesn't bother me one iota. I sell it like that's like this is why I get to do what I get to do.
I mean, honestly, I've been told when sharing your thesis, you're too binary, there's never just one solution, that's too absolute. And I know it's just because it confronts people and like their sense of self in many ways. That can't be true. It's like rejecting the truth at the beginning. And I understand it can push them away.
Yeah, and none of that bothers me. Like not
Right.
even a bit, right? Because for it to bother me, they would have to come up with something on why it was like, and so instead of ad hominem attack or something else, or he's too binary or anything else, because there's nothing of substance that somebody's been able to kind of change that view, right? Because it is true, the natural state is the free market is deflation. And so what they're saying is not that they don't accept that. What they're saying is humans can't live free. That's what they're saying. I don't believe humans should be able to live free. I believe there needs to be a control system from that. That's what they're saying. But they would never say it that way, right? So instead of saying that, they would just attack. And again, it doesn't matter, right? If I'm wrong, I'll be wrong, right? And I'll update my model, right? But it's not wrong.
I know it's not wrong.
I find this super powerful. I wanted to share this with you because wins in the Bitcoin education space. I've used your formulation, how do you solve X from a system designed to cause X, a lot. And I've reformulated it and like changed the things depending on who I have with me. And I feel like it really causes cognitive dissonance. So for example, how do you solve, quote, climate change from a system designed to cause climate change, right? How do you cure illness from a system designed to cause illness? How does Monero solve privacy and security from a system designed to eliminate privacy and security? So I feel like this formulation is really powerful in Bitcoin education to try to get people to start thinking a bit deeper about what's going on. I always get like good reactions from that. I was wondering if you had any other suggestions to help Bitcoin educators think deeper too.
Yeah, I think you're doing all the right things. I think that when you can pose a question somebody has to solve for themselves, then even if they don't while you're in the room, they go to sleep at night and they think about it. They wake up and they think about it. It keeps on rattling around in their mind until they can resolve the paradox and the conflict. What you've imposed is something that they can't resolve. And so it stays there until they can resolve it. And the only way they can resolve it is through Bitcoin. And then, and once resolved, then that's why it just takes time in these, and once resolved, they typically buy Bitcoin. But then that doesn't resolve where their time is, right? And which system they're giving more energy to. And so that's the next step of that cognitive dissonance of being out of alignment with what you say, who you say you are, right? Where your values what you're saying to the world is out of alignment with what you're doing. That's and so people get stuck there for a long time. I got stuck there as well. And that's the next breakthrough, which you've already passed, right? And when you're past that and you're kind of, now you're out on a ledge, you're like a very small number of people of the entire subset of the world, and you're out here. I think it's really easy to believe you always knew it. And when you talk from that spot and why people should move, they're just not ready to move. It just takes them time. And in your questions, and that's why questions are always the best. It's not up to you it's up for them to do it. They do the work. They see it. It's not up to us to orange pill. It lands harder when somebody does the work themselves and comes to that, because it's in their own mind. They have to reach the conclusion. So you're just so early, right? But celebrate the early. But I mean like crazy celebrate the early.
Really?
Because
How do you mean?
because the opportunity to stand out, to deliver value wouldn't exist without being early.
Jeff, you named it perfectly. You said there's a small amount of people that far out on the ledge. I feel like it's like the bottom of the Bitcoin rabbit hole. When I said at the beginning I felt lonely, the reason I feel lonely is because I'm so far out on the ledge now that I feel like I've alienated myself.
That edge is a really beautiful spot. It is actually that spot. There's, by the way, there's lots of people there. there's lots more people than you know that are there. They're not all on Twitter or yelling at the world or anything, but there's tons of people there. And as you talk more and more about it, they they come to you. So we got I gotta be careful, so I can't say this right now, or what a new strategy we're going to launch is, but I'll say this. In our LP base and ego death, and the ability to raise capital in what we do and how easy that is, right, is part, hopefully, doing the right thing by entrepreneurs building in this ecosystem, right, and building real value and for a long time and showing up in that way for entrepreneurs and building a good funnel. And it's that's one part of it, but the other part of it is other people with lots of capital going through the same journey that I did, same journey that you did, and wanting to move their time to a new system. And so every day, every single day, I get emails about exactly what I talk about all the time because of my own humility in going through it myself. And somebody just sent one yesterday saying they owner of a big hedge fund, or founder of a big hedge fund, that said, your words are hitting super hard because I buy Bitcoin, but I understand that I'm not living in Bitcoin, and there's no hiding from that. And so he said, how do I move more of my time to Bitcoin? How do I move more of my energy to this? But I get that every day because of being out on the ledge. And so the opportunity exists because people are seeing it in themselves too, and they're wanting to move. So yeah, so I would say celebrate that. Stay there. If you're wrong somewhere, admit where you are wrong, but stay there and just and allow people to find it in their time.
I kind of want to jump to a few other questions then, because it has to do with truth, sharing truth online and talking about it. It's just, if Bitcoin's the opposite of fiat, then instead of yelling the truth or trying to get people's attention right on YouTube and everything, then there's a kind of silent reverence, just a silent truth in Bitcoin. I have a feeling it will win and it doesn't need us, but it might not win and it does need us. You know what I mean? There's like a fine line between we need to take action, but we also just let it need to do its thing. And I don't know what that looks like in sharing this message.
Yeah. I realize it's I can't tell you how to share it for you. I can tell you how I think about it. I think about it in 5,000 years, if we've never lived in a free market and we have all these constraints, we build reality out of those constraints, then most people are looking through their reality from that constraint lens. And so talking about something that's new outside of that box, that's a kind of Plato's Caves example I gave you, something that's completely outside. For a lot of people that find safety, so they don't want to say something like, we've never lived in a free market. Right? It is true, but that's hard for somebody to get. And I think you're exactly right. So how I do, I just know that this is going to be chaotic. Like, it's going to be crazy chaotic because it's not Bitcoin, it's us that's changing. Right? And it's us that's moving our energy to a new system that can't be co-opted. And as you move your energy to the new system, you start to see it everywhere. You start to see the people that you're around in that system. They act more honestly. They act proof of work, because to go to the bottom of the rabbit hole and understand how the existing system works. Now, I'm not saying everybody does that. A lot of people won't. A lot of people will, it's just an asset. They'll try to co-opt it. A lot of people will lever it and get wiped out. A lot of people will, like, all of the things that are going to happen to try to kind of move from a system that's never existed to a new system that exists because of us, has to look like all of the chaos because it's us. And so I just know that's what it has to look like. It's going to look like that long after I'm gone, right? It's going to be the the other people are going to carry the torch for as long as they want to carry the torch. Doesn't need me. Maybe I impacted somebody who then impacts somebody else. I won't even know that person, just like I was impacted by somebody and they don't know that they helped me, right? And over time, more and more people will see it, and more people will move to it. But it's going to be really chaotic on the way through because even if you in Bitcoin, like would we almost pretend like it's one group, and that in-group bias is Bitcoin. Like, the difference in Bitcoiners, right? They like how, like, it's staggering how the difference in that who's spending in it, who's building onto it, who's thinking about privacy tech, who's all the versus I just am going to collect it and get rich. And that probably that or that I don't want to say for you, but that could, if you're one of the few that is spending it and sees for what it is and how it's tied to consciousness, and when because if you think about these buckets, most people don't know it. Most people think it's a scam or in altcoins. Everyone's in hot money. The group of people who get it, most of those, is just money. It's just, I'm going to get rich, right? It's not. It's a payment medium that changes the world, and it's not everything else. So there's a really small subset of people like you. Now, invert that equation just before you go ask your next question. Invert that equation. That would be something to celebrate, because if you're right, then what it means is everyone will eventually get there, and you're just early. And what does the free market value? It values value for other people. So you could, from that spot, and I'm just going back to the thing you led with, right? You just have to be truth, honesty for you. And if it's that, people will see it and they'll see you in it because you help them get there. You don't have to fight it.
I think that's it. Like, I'm fighting it because I want people to see it,
Yeah,
So,
so that happens to a lot of people. They fight. You don't. Remember you said to me early in one of our talks that some of the stuff I said, you just knew it was true.
oh, yeah.
You could feel it, the energy, that you knew it was true, even though you couldn't hang on to any of the words. None of the things made any sense to you. You remember talking about that?
Yes. Yes.
And all it was is the same thing said over and over and over, different ways and everything. And it was always true, right? It was your perception of what it looked like, but you needed to want to go deeper. You needed to want a connection to want to go deeper. So if that looked like that for you, wouldn't it look like that for everyone?
I'd hope so, but my observation is a lot of people aren't ready. And I guess you said it's going to be chaos on the way through. I see that as well. I know it's happening. I see family members and friends suffering. Of course, I got my own thing I need to let go of, trying to share this truth. I see it. How do you hold space for them in their pain, in their victimhood, or whatever we want to call it, where they are, and allow them to be there without taking on that suffering yourself?
Because it's not my thing. It's not, it's their thing. When somebody, so let's say I make a comment on social media or a comment, and somebody takes an attack because it's their thing that they're trying to matter through, trying to, it's not my thing. I can make it my thing by trying to protect my ego. But the truth is, some of the things that they say might be true. So I just need to take the, what the nugget is. And the same thing here, it's not my thing. Right? It's not, I can ask a question because I care about them. I could say, but ultimately I can't change them. Only they can change them.
I don't know. I'm just trying to understand this through my lens of the world, okay?
Yeah.
But is it like you have very strong energetic boundaries? Like you don't take on other people's emotions?
So I feel it. I feel all of the energy. I just don't react. I don't just. I don't. By the way, this is actually a learning for me because I used to. If you said that hero victim triangle, right? I used to need to be the hero to save somebody, and what I realized through that, and so I was constantly doing that, and it, I wasn't saving them, and so then where I would get mad is when so at first it felt so good because they were saying how great I was to them and everything else. And then when it didn't work anymore, I'd try all different tricks to be able to help to save them, and didn't work anymore. And they started attacking it. I would get mad. And why was I getting mad? Is because I lost the thing that was giving me love and belonging by saving them. And that was a real lesson for me that, wow, this is because it's easy to do. It feels so good when you help somebody and you have somebody that goes from a 0 to 1 moment and their entire life has changed because of the things you did. And then you want to be the thing. You want to be it's easy to fall into that trap. I'm the great one. I'm the saver. Right. And so I fell into that trap. And I found that I was doing things for a while that was it was about me. It wasn't about them. It was about my feeling that I got with that. It was just a different way of a victim. It was just a different way of love and belonging. And so you would attract that thing. You would look for people who are broken. And so I don't do that anymore. I'm not saying it doesn't feel really good when you help people, but I'm not trying to make it my cause. When I keep saying all of these lessons and why I don't have any problem sharing the lessons and all my vulnerability and mistakes I've made through these, is because the inside of those lessons, right? I see it in everyone else. I see it in myself. Some of these edges of what you'd say is I could tell myself my story for a while. I told myself my story for a while and realized it's not getting me what I want. It's not, if I'm objective about that, so why am I doing it? Right? I'm doing it not for them, I'm doing it for me. And being honest with that, intellectually honest and honest to be able to fix that or to error correct that in myself is just, and then you start to see the same thing that you want, right? Same love and belonging is the same thing that every other person wants. And they're all manifesting, trying to get it in their own way.
Honestly, I didn't think we would have this conversation, Jeff. I didn't plan it like this at all. So
I never know where these are going.
okay. Okay, you said it's going to be chaos on the way through. Is there anything we can do about it, or we just have to accept that we are going to make personal choices and then everyone else will do what they want to do?
It just is, right? We can influence, we can try to influence to drive this faster, but it just is going to happen in its own time. And by the way, it's not Bitcoin that's the chaos. The existing system would be chaotic without Bitcoin. It would have to resolve that paradox that it's a control system that's gaining more and more. It's turning into a surveillance state, more and more coercion, more and more control. And people don't know that that's the rise of their feeling is from that. And the rise of the feeling of disconnectedness with everyone and is from that. They don't know. And so with them not knowing that and thinking there's somebody who can save them, that's a different party or a different thing, or this person's evil and everything else, then you just know it's going to, it's unfortunately going to be chaotic for a lot of people. It just is that. It just is. You don't have to allow it to be like that for you. The part of my wife says this all the time. It says, how can you know all of this so deeply and how bad this is? Because some of the things, Daniela, that I get to see, that the people don't get to see, that they see me operating at a level instead of meeting this energy. They see me operating at a level that that could look like I'm delusional, right? That no, but it could look like that. He's not paying attention to all these risks and all of these things and what the NSA is doing and 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 if those people knew what I get to see from all these three-letter agencies, or from the some of the stuff I've seen and some of the stuff that um um I am not delusional about what this system looks like at all. And this is where my wife says, how could you know all of this and how people are making decisions and what they're doing and the corruption and how ugly this is all around the world, and then still be in this energy and knowing that? I said, it's a choice. I can't do anything about all this other stuff. There's nothing I can do. I can only stay in this energy, and this energy, I can be in a totally different spot and actually influence in a different way the world I want to see, bend reality into the direction that I'd like to see, at least for me or people around me, and hopefully that spreads. But it's not. I'm under no delusion and how ugly the system is. But the ugliness of the system, virtually everyone in the system is blaming somebody else while participating in the system that's creating the problem. Right? It's wild. It's wild and that was the insight for me that I was too. Right, and I've talked about this at length. That when I was telling myself about Bitcoin and talking about the world of Bitcoin and contributing most of my energy to the fiat world, that was a big break in me wanting to move my time. So if that took me a long time to be able to understand this, and I think at this level, like all across all of these things, and I knew from the sand how both these systems work, then how could I expect anybody else who didn't know all of this to just immediately go, oh, I'm in everything else. So it just takes time.
Do you have a sense of urgency at all?
I have a sense of optimism. I have a sense of and again, I said this a different way before, but what would the free market value, right, if this was, and if I look at everything around how easy things are becoming, is because I'm completely in alignment with my beliefs and completely in alignment with what I want, completely in alignment. I'm constantly checking, am I making a mistake there? So completely in alignment. And so everything's getting easier. Like it's crazy. I'm just filled with gratitude for the people I get to work with, the people I get to spend time with, what's happening. It's just going to take shape in its own time. But what would the free market value if you had this other system that was moving into a surveillance state, and it was getting worse and worse and worse, and people were yelling at it and making it worse? There isn't one problem that could be fixed from that system. Nothing. It just all gets worse, and you know this. So if it all gets worse, why are you spending any time on it? Why you the time or worried about it, right? At all, right? Because even the worry, right? How, at least me as an entrepreneur, how I think about it is, in a world where 99.9% of people don't know what's happening and they're worried about what's happening, what does an entrepreneur do? They build value to what somebody doesn't know they need yet. And so what would Bitcoin look like if you had this protocol, but you needed privacy, you needed all of these things, where there would be an insane amount of opportunity to create value for most of the world that has no clue that they need it yet. They're stuck in this. So if I am the complete opposite of giving this any energy. I'm thinking what I get to do wouldn't exist to be able to provide that much value unless it looked like this. I can't believe I get to live in this time and place, right? I cannot believe it that I get to play a role in actually building some of the like deep tech and helping entrepreneurs build their dreams to be able to help create value for other people. They won't all be successful, but I cannot believe I get to do it. Yeah, in a time, and this wouldn't exist if it didn't all look like chaos.
I brought up a lot of difficulties today, but I do want to say my life has completely changed for the better. Like, I feel like I'm on a really cool journey right now, honestly, like in the last 5 years of understanding Bitcoin, going deeper, discovering all of this, understanding, my programming on another level, and then moving through that and now being on a Bitcoin standard and meeting so many Bitcoiners all over the world is like, oh my gosh, I think I'm talking about loneliness and my family. Like, these are the last struggles that I have through this process. I feel like it's the last thing that I need to work through. And it's hard to see that sign on your head until someone's like, I see it, I know you see it, Jeff. So it's just been helpful for you to turn it around for me. And I'm really grateful. But it is wild and it is amazing. And I do love being here and seeing what's going on and like building that future.
It is so insane.
Yeah.
To be alive at this time, be able to live in interesting times. It's wild.
Absolutely. Yeah. There is a lot of opportunity right now.
It's limitless right now. It's limitless. Maybe this is helpful for anyone listening. Try to measure your day in how much of your day you're thinking about other people and what they should do, right? And all of this, rather than how much of your day is actually contributing to the things that are in the direction you want to. And you'll find it, most people will find that the majority of their day is consumed by a make-believe, somebody else creating pain, and all of this nonsense of just taking all of their mental energy into that thing. And they can't see it in themselves because they're so consumed by it. So just holding that and asking it every day, how much of my time? I have X utiles of energy today. How many of them went into actually pushing forward the thing I want rather than talking about the thing I don't want or thinking about the thing I don't want? So honestly, like even this podcast, I would say no if I didn't love the things I do every day. I wouldn't do it. Right? We delayed this podcast today because we just got a new boat, and I wanted to go out on it with my son and wife, and so I choose every day the things that I want to do with the people I want to do them with, and if I don't, then I choose something different. Right? So I am having the time of my life doing what I'm doing. Like I go back to, I cannot believe I get to do it. This is such a ride. And every person right now, every person that's doing this right now, I'm going to look back on some of these moments, on a rocking chair when I'm 90, and go, what a ride. Like, what a ride. And that's how I feel every day. But I feel like it's just so crazy I get to do this.
I'm going to have to edit out a lot of stuff, Jeff, here. Like, I mean, I never cry. I don't know what's going on, but I'm really grateful. Thank you for this talk. Yeah. You're right. It's beautiful right now. It's also very beautiful.
It's so beautiful. Like step into that. Like that fear that people, and that's why I don't understand. I just really don't understand why people are giving it energy. It is the polarity of that is the thing that's creating the opportunity.
I don't know why I'm still stuck on the pain of seeing loved ones just like stuck. I don't know. I need to detach from that.
Yeah, and that's probably a big thing. And I think by you sharing this, by the way, Danielle, I'm hoping other people will see it in themselves too, right? This isn't in other words, this isn't a you and me doing this. You're doing this with vulnerability, so other people that can see the same things in themselves. Because we see a lot. I see a lot of the same things. I see a lot of the same things in a lot of people in Bitcoin, and they don't know that they're pushing the family away more. And they just don't, I get Karen, or put it this way, go build greatness. Go build greatness with all of the people building greatness. And then when your family is ready or isn't ready, you're going to have so much money to be able to help them anyways. And it's way easier to inspire somebody to look rather than tell them.
I'm learning that right now. Yeah, I think for me personally, my journey this year has been stepping into this, actually being the change. Like I'm on a Bitcoin standard. I've had some fiat situations, finding an apartment. I had no income. Like I didn't have anything. And the landlord was like, I like you. Like send me all the paperwork and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot. I needed to do that.
That's
And
awesome.
oh, I'm completely in a Bitcoin mindset. So yeah, I guess, uh,
So Danielle, just speaking of the book and everything else, and I would recommend anybody listening to this podcast, go and buy your book. It's a really great book. You put your heart and soul into it. It was really great. It's fantastic. But I remember who you were at the point where we had that first moment where you asked if you could write my book, right? And you didn't see the genius in you. Right? You didn't see that that it could all be unlocked, and it could be your book, your words, everything else, and you could impact people, because and it wasn't me giving it to you. It was always there in you. I've watched your evolution from that point. I've watched what that meek person that came to say, please let me write your book, right? To who you are today, to how much impact you're having on other people. It's profound. It's a staggering difference that what you've done and what you've created. There's not a lot of people. There's a lot of people that say they're going to write a book. There's a lot of people that use ChatGPT today to write a book. Going and doing what you did and putting together, and it's a really good piece of work. It's a really great piece of work, and it's you. It's not me. It's you. It's your words. It's your insights into that book.
I mean, like I said, I listened to you for 4 years, repeat the same thing over and over. In a free market, prices fall to the marginal cost of production. That insight changes everything. It's like a firmware upgrade to like, but
So keep this in. That's the funny thing, right? People nod their head. They're nodding their head because they know in their consciousness something that's true, right? That they nod and they nod their head, and then they go right back to the other world, right? And that's why I say it's not enough to know it's true. You have to internalize it, and internalizing it is the harder part. Acting in a way that it's true. Not just intellectually knowing that it's true, actually acting in a way that's true and understanding the implications of everything you used to think or still think, right? That's why it's just so important just to keep that anchored all the time, right? And keep on coming back to it until it's so internalized. Because then you start to see anything you're not doing here is contributing to the world that you don't want. And most times, you're doing that and then blaming somebody else, right? Because you don't want to take agency, because it can't be you. Your ego won't allow that. And so so that's why that internalizing that is such an important part. And then internalizing it is, like, we have Saylor and I on two different sides of this debate right now. And I spent 3 hours at dinner talking about the side of this, and whether he gets there or doesn't get there, it doesn't much matter. Like, eventually he will or he won't, right? But it doesn't. If the natural state of the free market is deflation, then this can't just be an asset, or it'll be broken, right?
Jeff, how did you approach that conversation with Michael Saylor? What was your energy like? You weren't trying to convince him, I can imagine.
Same energy as now. Same. So you've seen me everywhere, right? It's just pretty much the same energy all the time. So yeah, I was trying to convince him. I was trying to, or not trying to, or maybe I was trying to get him to see in his own argument how it can't be aligned. And he kept coming back, well, Apple's only going to buy, and he's just talking about a complete framework today of current companies today and how much money they have and everything else. He's not talking yet at what this protocol does and how it imposes. Like, by the way, it doesn't care that I'm right. Right? It's imposing this discipline, and it's going to happen over time. So at some point, I suspect that the centralized system is going to try to co-opt the system because they can't coexist. But that means that a lot of the people within that centralized system will probably be liquidated. So it doesn't matter for the whole journey. It just matters that, and even, and we don't have to go deep into this, but I'm okay with Michael saying whatever he thinks. I'm okay with, in the Knott's core debate, right? I'm okay with, I want to see the entire realm of the debate. The consensus mechanism is incredible because today, in our world before, we were told what box was okay to and the insight and the genius always came from outside the box. And most people would live in the box, and the world all won't change. We know 98% of what the world needs to know. Every epoch of time, people thought the same thing. And then somebody from outside changed the world, right? There's an insight that came from their mind that changed the world, that then these people change. And all these people that change, at first, they would be attacking that insight, right? And through most of recorded history, we don't have very many people willing to step outside of this. They're either killed, they're so dangerous to the center, right? Then the center is us, but we don't want to see it. So now take the consensus mechanism. It forces us to see, let's say Luke, right, on one side, or Peter Todd on the other side. It forces them. I want to see the entire thing. I want to see where somebody's a genius in something that's so critically important, and I want to make the decision. And even if 25% of the time they're insane, right? It doesn't matter because I'm not attaching the idea to the person and saying that they're always like this, right? And the beautiful thing about what we get to see in this is we get to see all the ideas. And so, and I know I went on a roundabout way into coordinates and Michael Saylor and me and everything else. But what did I just describe? What did I just describe? I described the free market of all of the ideas competing, right? And all of the ideas, us choosing what we believe in those ideas. And I find it, and I don't have to do anything. I don't have to fight this. I don't have to do anything. My idea is different than Saylor's idea. To me, it's not just an asset. Right? And so to me, it won't be just an asset. And there's a whole bunch of people in the free market who will not just see it as an asset. And there are people who see it as just an asset. And at some point, only one of those people is going to be right.
I actually had questions about this, not specifically about Michael Saylor, but just in general. I've been observing in the Bitcoin space that a lot of Bitcoin businesses and individuals are being swayed into fiat incentives. I guess my question is, why do you think the pull is so persistent even among people who deeply understand Bitcoin first principles?
Because because in their limited set of today's world, what they're really wanting is to be rich. They're wanting to, they might not have, they believe, or they may believe, when I get this much, then I've made it. Right. And, and they don't know that they already have everything they need. And I'm not saying everybody's like that. I'm not saying there's certainly, I see tons of people in Bitcoin that are deep into this, like you, that are already, they're already enough, right? They're who they are is they're already, they're living their best lives right now, doing things they want. But there's also a lot that are still trapped in the fiat mindset that are trying to matter by having more money than the next guy in a zero-sum game. So it would, but it would have to look like that. It would have to look like that as we transition. That's why it's like 97% of Bitcoiners you know today. You just have to assume that it's probably not that high because of what you have to do to go through the proof of work of Bitcoin, but it would serve you well. That's why you should kind of know heroes in Bitcoin. It serves you well to think that a lot of people that you currently know in Bitcoin will go to the dark side. And then they'll be replaced by new people who carry this forward. And it'll carry it forward. If you see today, and I'm not saying they're going the dark side necessarily, but you see long-term holders right now selling through October, like tons of long-term holders. And they held through this many years, and now they're selling now. Now, maybe they're trying to buy back in other time, maybe they've just sold their Bitcoin to new holders and distributed the Bitcoin to a broader set of holders that are going to continue to come forever.
Jeff, how do you not go to the dark side, you specifically?
I have everything I want. I have everything I could ever want. I've told this story. I don't know if I told it with you, but when I lost everything in Build Direct in the company, that was only 2017. We had nothing. We like literally nothing. I didn't have a paycheck at the end of the month because I left the business that I created. 6 months before that, my net worth was over $100 million in the company. And I left a company that I knew they were going to take in bankruptcy because I couldn't work in an environment where I helped wipe out friends of mine who came into the company and I got paid for it. I just couldn't work in that environment. So I left, and I knew that the person was going to take it through bankruptcy and wipe me out too. But I didn't have a paycheck at the end of the month. And three different people, investors, friends that didn't know each other, all so the first day said, I'm going to wire you $100,000. Each one of them, I'm going to wire you $100,000, your personal bank account. Don't tell Kelly. So I kind of, who am I to get to receive that? I was at the very low. And when you think about the three young kids, we'd sold our house for the business. It was a complete wipeout. I didn't have any. I couldn't pay rent at the end of the month, and everything. But what that told me, kind of all of the people that came to me, and me still having my integrity, I didn't lose anything. I literally could have lived in a tent. And I'm not kidding. I could have lived in a tent, as long as as long as my family, friends, and everything else were around me. That I had lost nothing. I had everything. In building everything back, and the wealth back was so crazy easy because I hadn't lost anything, nothing. Um, and so it was an interesting time because you have to realize, for the year before that, I was fighting, trying to get out of this puzzle, this part of this body that I couldn't get out of, and it was aging me. It was terrible, um, and realizing that I had it all the time. It was always there. Was so freeing for like having no money, nothing, and having everything else was so freeing that I really, I'm gonna just stay like that no matter what it looks like forever.
That's beautiful, Jeff. um, do you think those who are seeking wealth in Bitcoin are just with the fiat mindset? Do you think underneath that there's love and belonging?
I think it's in everything. It's in everything and everyone, and they're all they're trying to get it in their own way, and most often in whatever part of their own way is pushing it away more than they realize. So the easiest way to see it is just to really calculate of your life and say, what are the areas of your life that you're not getting everything you want? It's likely you pushing it away. If that's in relationships, if that's in money, if that's in uh, how you show up in something, it's like it's you. It's not somebody else. The world doesn't look like that. It looks like that to your perspective, trying to protect your ego from something else. So it's deep. It's typically deeper than you realize.
Okay, I agree with you from a Bitcoin perspective because that takes away the systemic issues of fiat. Because I think that we do have agency, of course, in our individual lives. For example, me understanding my childhood programming and how it's affecting me now as an adult and changing that programming can change my future from that moment forward, right? Okay, but I feel like we have more agency within a Bitcoin mindset or system because when we're in fiat, how do you make more money when you're a wage worker? You know, like you can't give more time to a system designed to steal your time and your energy and everything from you.
Yep. So you're right, and so completely right. And over time, longer, um, you could either see Bitcoin from a higher energy consciousness and realize it's true, and then want to do the work, or you could be in Bitcoin for long enough and want to make money in Bitcoin and do the work, and you'll raise your consciousness. I think they would both arrive at the same place. But what you're describing over here is when I said all of these insights are available all the time for every single person. It's up to the person in Fiat and what they're doing to try to, and what they're telling themselves. I don't have time to learn this, right? It's because my life is so chaotic, just like the victim is, you don't understand me, right? This is the way my life, I've always had these problems and everything else. And so what will that person do? They'll make up their own excuse, no matter what it is, to stay exactly where they are, right? So you're right, but we're talking about something different in that, right? So we're talking about what unlocks somebody to want to look, to realize their life doesn't have to look like they perceive it looks, right? It does right now because of their perception. It does because they're trapped in a job. It does because they don't believe they have any agency and any control, but they have a bit. And from that spot, truth is they don't, right? Until their mind shifts, that they realize that I have agency, that I can learn. There was somebody that came up to me in Peter's conference in Bedford. They said that they listened to me at the same time you listened to me in the very beginning, and they just started buying coffees. They were living in they'd use, instead of buying coffee, they would buy Bitcoin every day, and they were living in their van at the time, and their life completely changed just from an insight, right? From not from an insight, from an insight, and then action against that insight that then put them in a different spot. So these 0 to 1 moments can happen to us anytime. It's all available. It's all infinite. Right? It's up to us to see it.
I don't know if I asked you this already, Jeff, but I'm still trying to figure out what our role is.
It's literally whatever you want it to be. If you think it's working inside a company, if you helping that company achieve something that touches tons of other people, if you think it's doing consulting for a bunch of different companies in a certain way, it's whatever you want it to be. And by the way, it's whatever you want it to be, and it can change. It can constantly change, because as you step into this new world and you do more into this new world, you have to expect it will change, right? People will close gaps, people create other things, and then you'll learn something that increases your skill set to do something else, and you'll see different opportunities. So it's not like we've been taught in school. You go to school for this many years, and you go to, and this is the thing you're going to do for the next 50 years. The world doesn't look like that anymore. It shouldn't look like that. It should have never looked like this. And you can move your time, and by moving your time, you're going to see all of these opportunities. You're going to see different opportunities, and you're going to get better and better, creating value. Creating that, and as you see, where else can I create value? These things can take you into different directions. I can only tell you that this is my own experience. Why things are getting easier and easier and easier, and why because you're seeing all of these things coalesce, and you're starting to say, okay, this plus this thing I didn't see before creates this new thing. If you choose to want to do more, and want to find some of the things in you to be able to do that, that is a choice. You don't have to make it. You're perfectly fine just who you are. Perfect where you are. If you choose to, because you want to see more opportunity and everything else, then some of these things, and they have to. We learn by making mistakes. We learn, so we should celebrate all of those things that were blocking us every time, because those are the insights. And then when we have enough humility to say, huh, I did that, right? And see it and you can see it in everyone else, and you don't have to say that you're smart or anything else, because you did the same thing, right? And so if you choose to do that, then you're exactly where you should be.
Speaking of other Bitcoiners trying to move their time and energy into Bitcoin, I actually had quite a few questions about that from people who are deep in your thesis. They were asking, okay, well, from a systemic level, Jason asks, many people still struggle to live in Bitcoin while their financial lives, mortgages, groceries and utilities are still anchored in fiat. He was wondering, how do you see the incentive structures evolving to help people naturally transition toward a Bitcoin standard?
Yeah, so there's not one answer here. It's a collection of answers, and the collection of answers also will change out of you changing your own things you do, right? So as you spend more time in this, you'll see more opportunity in different things that evolve, and more people will create different opportunities. One simple thing, but we can talk about it, as many as you want. But in the existing system, you have if you talk about incentives, in North America, there's about 2.5% to 3% fees to take money that's losing money. And in Bitcoin, there's no fees, or virtually no fees on Lightning, to take money that's not losing money. So what do you think businesses will do, right? They'll give value, they'll decrease their prices, give value to Bitcoiners, because they want to collect. Instead of paying Visa, they'll pay you. Right. And those businesses will win more than other businesses that are collecting fiat, and it'll get better and better and better, and it'll accelerate. And as it accelerates, so Shake Shack just announced their last quarter. Did you see that? The fastest growing fast food company, because of Bitcoin. Because Bitcoiners are coming in, and now they're going to speak in El Salvador, but they had a blowout quarter. because they're accepting Bitcoin and Bitcoiners are spending in Bitcoin and compared to the rest of the industry. But they don't have the fees anymore, right? They don't have so not only is it a better quarter, but their margins are so much better. Now they can deliver better food, right? They can deliver more value back to you. So that's just a tiny little example of, and then so what would look like for entrepreneurs like Roy at Breeze and Lightning and different technologies and tools and everything else that are creating these infrastructure layers to allow just people to plug into the network and move, then those businesses would explode because people are moving. It's really early still, but the incentives are naturally aligned, right? We'll look back, we'll look back at this epoch in time and say, can you believe those people paid somebody to take their money that was losing money? Right.
Jeff, honestly, I'm just like, take an alien perspective and look at this planet. It makes no sense. Like nothing.
All these they're like, it's so crazy, some of these things. And when you say them, like people laugh, or it's a record scratch across their brain. But then they have to unwind. Oh yeah, I'm doing that. Everywhere I'm doing that, right? I'm doing that in everything I do. And then they change, right? So, but that's just this one small example, but so the incentives are already aligned. The free market will drive this for sure, because you're a really dumb business if you don't do that. Like really dumb. Because more than just that, right? More than just that. It being a dumb business. You can market to Bitcoiners who will spend without going to Google to market to them, without paying. So you have an entire free marketing channel just by turning on Bitcoin. And so the free market is terribly efficient over time, and it'll lay waste to the companies that aren't efficient. So the incentives are already there.
You answered that amazingly. I feel like that was a super great, clear, just move over to Bitcoin. Like, why? Of course. For Bitcoiners building Bitcoin businesses, just in general, are there principles or blind spots that they should keep in mind as they move into this new world?
Building businesses is hard, right? So building businesses in a free market is hard, because if you have success, people will copy you on that success. So the idea, it's not just the idea, it's the execution on the idea, and building that in a better way to provide more value than anyone else with no moat, because everyone else can just do the same thing. So to be able to do that on a consistent basis, and not get disappointed. That's why I touched on this when I said we invest in entrepreneurs. Being an entrepreneur you aren't lonely, right? You have a team, you think you're going to run out of money, the product market fit, something doesn't work, and everybody's saying, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? And you have to get up the next day and you realize it's all on you or your team to be able to deliver value to somebody else. And you haven't quite done it yet. And it's excruciating. That fight. I mean, and everybody else trying to do the same thing to compete with providing value. That is what it looks like. And you only win if you create more value from a lot more value for somebody else, because nobody moves if it's just an increment more of a value. So when you sign up to be able to be an entrepreneur and what that looks like, and all of what's against you, you have to be partly insane, right? You have to know that that's you jump in and you don't know all the lessons, and if you're too early, you get crushed. If you're too late, the market opportunity is already gone, but it's closed from. So there's this timing. There's this, what is it? Am I able to get up every day and do this in a motivational way, in a strong way? Am I able to check kind of all the things and learn what I need to learn to be able to provide this value? It's just not an easy road. So I empathize with entrepreneurs on the journey, like crazy empathize, because I've been one. I know what it looks like when you think, when I use my own example, when you're going to lose everything and everything you ever did, and you're on that line, right? It's hard to relate to somebody. It's hard to talk to somebody else that has never been there. So, I would just say that if somebody's going to do that and go kind of all in, then what type of capital do you need? What is this? How can you de-risk it as much as possible through all of the different trial, error, testing, and everything else to be able to do it before you, not before you jump in, but before you've uh, like, yeah, I guess in that you're constantly testing your hypothesis. And as you're talking to the market, you're talking to different people who would use it if you delivered X, right? And then you go, but there is no road, there's no map, right? People who've done it over and over and over again know how hard it is. It's not getting any easier. I do. Uh, remember somebody specifically when you're talking about this and asked the question, somebody came to mind that said building Bitcoin businesses is hard. And this was out of Wolf, and they got turned down in Wolf financing, and the business failed after they got financing through Wolf. And he was in one of my talks, and I said, the free market is hard, right? Because it rewards value. And if you don't provide value, you fail. 99%, most businesses fail. Right? All businesses eventually fail, but most businesses don't get off the ground, and they fail. You have to go in knowing that and saying, I'm going to beat those odds by providing so much value, and here's how.
Nick talked about, what advice would you give for someone who deeply believes in Bitcoin but feels stuck in fiat because of family or his well-paying job in fiat? He wants to make the transition cautiously.
Yeah. I can't give advice there because it's their own choice. I can only just say what, when I was there, and I, please don't do this. Was it Nick? Please don't do this because I'm saying this. Do it because it feels right for you. For me, I told myself for a long time I needed to make the money because I'd lost everything in 2017, and I needed to make the money in fiat to be able to buy more Bitcoin. And I'd lived that for quite some time. So I stayed stuck. And from that position, I could have never put my energy fully into what I do today, and would have never seen the things I see today from that straddling that. And I would have thought perception of reality was true. I would have been scared to move. I would have stayed, and most people don't know this is something I've never said. When I moved, and my wife and support, we had already gone through complete meltdown. I decided that we decided we're going to do this, and that for a year, because we didn't know at that time that the ego death could even raise money. Right? This was I need to move my time here, and we're not going to make any money for at least a year. We're going to live off anything we've saved, to be able to do this, and so I understand how that could feel really hard, right? I could think because there was some time, and for me, I just couldn't stay, right? But I'm not asking anyone else to do, and I know I've always been an entrepreneur. I'm not afraid of jumping, right? And learning how to swim afterwards, and learning what I need to know. But I understand that reserved way to do it. So if you're reserved and you're scared of jumping, then what that will mean is you'll be slow to fail or slow to see everything, and slow to learn the lessons you need to learn in the new system. And so then, if that's the case, how do you parking lot enough time and say, okay, I'm going to keep doing this for this long, and in this time, this is all Bitcoin inside this box, so that you start to intentionally move some of your time and to not just into spending in Bitcoin or anything else. Where would be the companies in Bitcoin? Where would be the things? Who are the type of people, CEOs of different things, startups and Nostr, open source, Bitcoin, Lightning, all of these things, Fediment. What are things that you're really curious about that your skills could amplify? And if you didn't have to make money at it right away, but you could go help and learn, it's cool. Try to help and learn. And you'd be amazed what comes back to you. And that might be the thing that takes you from what you appears safe today to be something that is way more exciting and way safer.
I understand the difficulty of moving over to a Bitcoin standard because it took me a lot of overcoming some fears as well. Do I have enough Bitcoin? Have I hodled long enough? Spending it was so scary. I bought a water bottle in Madeira for 7,000 sats, and I was like, that's going to be $7,000 someday. I was like, oh my gosh, the worst purchase ever, but I was really thirsty. But anyway, I don't regret it now. I don't regret spending any sats because I feel like I'm fully part of this economy. I'm in that world and it's wonderful. I've just been sending people sats now, like on Nostr and in person. Like the first thing I
Love
do,
that.
like, oh, you want to be a Bitcoiner? Here, send you some sats. So, but I understand the fear around that because we were taught in Fiat, I need more money is normal because every year our money loses value. So you have to make more money. I'm wondering, here's maybe how I see it. If we hodl 1 to 3 cycles, from there, does it make sense to start living on a Bitcoin standard? Because you have a stack that would be possibly.
That probably goes on forever. But just think about even in Bitcoin, in time, how you make more money is provide more value to other people. Right? And you could make a lot of money in Bitcoin, especially today, because there's so much opportunity to help people understand it. Like it's crazy. So you can actually accelerate your Bitcoin stack through Bitcoin faster than probably that's what we're doing in ego death, right? That is what we expect. Now maybe we're wrong, but so far we haven't been, and you're helping companies build value, and then by creating so much value, they get paid in Bitcoin, more in Bitcoin, and they increase their treasuries in Bitcoin the entire time. Right. So that's true for any single person in Bitcoin. What you just described, you might not need, if you're measuring truly in Bitcoin, then you don't need to make as much as you need to make in the other world. Right. If you're so think of what you could do inside this to provide value. And there's all sorts of different ways to be able to provide value if you're providing value in Bitcoin.
I have some questions about ego death, but I just wanted to say it's funny because like I see people posting on Nostr now, buy the dip, but I'm like, buy it with what? When you're living in Bitcoin, you can't buy the dip. Like,
totally. You know, the people that are all the way down at the rabbit hole because they've sold their chairs.
it's so strange. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just a different experience now because it's like, oh, everything is in Bitcoin. Okay, questions about ego death. I was curious. Because you said you're a monetary maximalist and you have expressed skepticism towards stablecoins and Bitcoin lending and crypto, of course. Yet some of Ego Death's portfolios seems to operate in these domains. So I was curious, how do you reconcile these businesses with Bitcoin's first principles?
And which one specifically?
Sure. Hold on one second.
And as you're coming up with that, so I'll answer both ways, but first I'll answer. So we run a fund. Investors believe in us our ability to outpace Bitcoin, and we want to invest broadly in things we think are foundational to Bitcoin's development. Some of those things, like if we're in a lending company, there will be lending on Bitcoin. It'll be a smaller and smaller amount over time, and tons of people are going to get wiped out on one side or the other of that. There will be people trading in Bitcoin. Like if you settle on markets and shorting and long, people will get wiped out on that. But there would be markets that are good businesses that accelerate the path to be able to, because some people learn from doing that and then just want to hold. So there's lots of good businesses on the way through here, and that might not be businesses in 50 years, right? But
Okay.
so what we try to be good actors in what we're on the value component that we're accelerating Bitcoin, both the way that we see it, and with those companies. And I'm one partner of five. Right. So, and I would never say this, if we vote 4 out of 5 to do a deal, it's 5 out of 5, right? Because you never want to turn against, but what, the, so you support everything together. You support the people that made the decision, even if the decision was wrong, right? And because, and you move on and you make, and if you've made mistakes, you try to error correct through that. So that's how I broadly talk about what that looks like.
Okay, I understand. The companies in question are, from what I've seen, BIPA is in stable coins. A simple proof is doing time stamping on the
Yeah.
blockchain,
Yeah.
and then Roxxon would be crypto related.
Yeah, so Roxham isn't really crypto related, but let's go with simple proof first. And so the amount of open timestamps of how much data that takes, it's such a tiny fragment. And one of the things I see and what's going to happen, so I'm positive on that. By the way, if it meant losing simple proof as an investment or a monetary maximum on this, I would choose monetary maximum. Right? I think that's, if you just said but now word it can simple proof is such a tiny piece on the blockchain, like not a lot of data. It's not like inscriptions and all of the nonsense. And um, so uh, so if you can, especially with AI, whereas AI is going, it'll be pretty soon. You won't know if this is real Daniella or fake Danielle. You'll be able to rewrite history. And who controls who was it that said it, who controls the present controls the future, who controls the future controls the present. You have to have an ability to what is truth, right? And then if that's overwritten, be able to see it. So some of these things I think are important in a world that's moving into AI, that you won't know, that you can see what governments are doing. They're creating different truths, and people are believing those truths, and so this gives a way out of that. The And in a really simple and elegant in an elegant way, without a lot of space, so you could take some interesting developments in that. Then Roxham, their idea, so Roxham founder is actually out of Venezuela, and who's lived through massive hyperinflation, and the works. And their idea is a Bitcoin-backed exchange, like completely Bitcoin-backed. So the other things, by having the the world be able to trade Apple on, like Apple stock on their platform, having Bitcoin backed instead of fiat backed, like NASDAQ or such, allows them to short Apple, right? Create all the hedging instruments, because people think Apple's going up, but it's going down against Bitcoin. And so it's a Bitcoin first exchange, where their denominated currency is Bitcoin. So they're going to trade all of the stocks. Other people are going to trade the stocks, because most of the world today still thinks in terms of those stocks, but the functional base is Bitcoin.
I have some questions about time stamping on the blockchain, because I guess my question would be, I understand the utility of having proof of truth, but why does it have to be on layer 1 of Bitcoin? Why can't it be on Nostr or some other protocol where you would have that truth inscribed without it being on my node?
Yeah. So yeah, it might be able to, right? That that type of data on your node on that timestamp would be such an insignificant part of the data profile, even with tons of this being used. But that's actually that's a fair construct. Could it be somewhere else? And by the way, if it's somewhere else, if the free market decides it should be somewhere else, and it's a better spot, cheaper, better, faster, and can record truth without that, it'll be somewhere else.
I guess the other thing I was wondering is, how does it prove truth? Because, okay, we have a timestamp of the date and time, for example, maybe the name of the document or some other piece of information, but then the actual document itself is entrusted with a third party. So that can be changed. I'm trusting a third party with the actual document, which is the more important piece of information, right? Is that
Yeah,
how it works?
but you can go back to that time and date on that specific and see that file was the one. If it's changed afterwards, right, you could change it again on open timestamps, but but if somebody who changed it and then did something different, you could go back to the first one.
But like, for example, you gave the example of your will. Your will is not uploaded to the actual blockchain. It's entrusted with a third party. So even if I knew that it was, I don't know, November 5th, if they change it after
But
we leave the room.
imagine that will. So the record of that will would be uploaded in a file in my computer on that date. And if the file is not changed at a different date, it could go back to say this happened. It was changed after the fact.
Okay, actually, one of my questions was, how do we know it's true in an AI-driven world?
Yeah, and all of these conversations are going to get more and more confusing
Yeah.
in like that whole realm. So I would say a far bigger issue today. Like, I don't want to hide away from this question. If you want to stay there. But it's an investment that we think that has some upside, may work, may not work. The far bigger thing today is people giving themselves into essentially into the Tether stablecoin. You're living into something that's turning into an Orwellian nightmare. It's a surveillance state, and people don't know that they're in a surveillance state. That surveillance state is being used more and more against them, and they have no idea it's happening.
Does BIPA support that? Because they're a stablecoin company as well.
Because no, they do not support that. But even in that you're saying BIPA in Brazil, this is when you invest in a founder that you go through their diligence and everything else, and you say, okay, here's our thesis, Bitcoin only, and everything else. That founder could change. Right? A founder could change something after the fact, and I'm not going to because we can't manage every single founder and they can do whatever they want. It's the word the minority investor. What we try to do is influence them to do the things that are aligned with Bitcoin and where this is going. But any single company, you can imagine, you're investing in people. Those people could do something completely different than you would do too.
Thanks, Jeff. I wanted to understand, like, Nick and I were talking about how much we appreciate when you get pushback, like with George Gammon, how you talk through how you think and everything. So yeah, I just wanted to understand why, because I felt like a discrepancy in a way, you know.
And it's good that people ask that. It's good that and I'm actually like really appreciative of the comment. We won't be able to, just because you write a check into a company and you try to help them and you believe in the company doesn't mean they will have success or not change or anything else. In that specific example, it's actually a really interesting example, because what ends up happening a lot of times on founders, I'm not going to say that example. I'm going to say a broader example so it's not tied to any. Here's what often happens in founders. I have this idea that's this narrow thing. It's a really great thing. And then I get some money and I'm going to do everything. And a lot of those founders end up ruining the thing by trying to do everything to service everyone. And so we spend a lot of time broadly with founders trying to help them narrow a path, right? And do foundational planning to be able to kind of win a market first, and then before expanding and doing those. But it's the opposite of what young founders typically do, is they think, okay, now I can do more and more and more, and by doing more, they do less.
Okay. I have a question. It's coming from my perspective. So I'm just going to give you the question and then we'll try to work through it. So I've noticed on several podcasts that you asked hosts not to use price predictions or clickbait, like clearly, and yet they still do. Some do. And for those who deeply value your work, that can feel really disrespectful, not only because it misrepresents your thesis, but because it clearly dismisses your boundaries, right? And I understand it says more about them and where they are in their journey, but you continue to engage with those platforms. And on a more personal level, I'm asking because I'll be engaging more with the space. And if they're willing to disrespect you, I feel like they'd be willing to disrespect other people.
Yeah. So I don't look at, as long as I'm clear in my motivation, somebody wants to do that anyways, then I'm clear to anybody who's listening to it. They do use it for, so let's use Nico as an example. So, and in Simply Bitcoin, and because he recently did it, and then he said to me, as I said something to him, and he said, listen, Jeff, your podcast on my show, because I do this, because the rest of the entire ecosystem, people to go on clickbait, right? That's what drives and then they learn more. He said, your podcast has almost 300,000 views. My next closest podcast has 60,000. And so it's touched a lot of people because of that, right? Because of some of the things that I put in. So again, it's not me doing it. I don't know if I would do it, but I understand he runs it. He runs a business, and he runs a business to it's a media business to try to get a bunch of views. It's the same reason why people read newspapers, or any, they click on. It's not, and so if he does that, that's his own business. It's the same thing. It's not. I'm not going to describe how I want him to be. I think he's largely very, very good for the entire ecosystem. Would I agree with every decision? No. Would I agree with every decision that anyone makes? No. Would I agree? Is he a really good actor within the ecosystem? From what I see, yes.
I understand. I guess I can't change the way they react or what they do, but I guess I would want to go into it knowing beforehand, like, that is possible. So in order to respect my boundaries, like, I probably wouldn't engage in that because I don't want to go there.
Yeah, but that's actually really, and you're entirely entitled to what is for you, right? As I am for me. So you'll find certain people that you're aligned with, and you'll have a natural conversation with those people, and that'd be because you're already aligned, and you shouldn't go on shows that you're not aligned with.
Is there a point where you discern that reaching new people is not worth the cost of being reframed by fiat incentives? For example, maybe not attending certain conferences?
You can see that I probably have stopped going to some of the conferences and have taken my time. I'm not saying I won't again in some of them, but I've made intentional decisions to slow down or choose which conferences are more important to me. It's the same thing I said before. I'm constantly doing that with my time. It's my time. I choose to really spend it with. And so I went to Bitcoin Mina last year. it was singularly the worst conference I'd ever gone to. It felt nothing like Bitcoin. Now, I'm not saying it couldn't this year, but it sure wasn't last year. And so when I was asked again, I didn't go.
Okay, interesting, because you do say no to certain things.
Yeah. Why I said yes to El Salvador is because of that, because the president said to me specifically that he wants to he needs to have his citizens spending in Bitcoin, running nodes, instead of in stable coins and just saving in this. And he needs that to happen to be able to fight a system of control. And so I said yes to put up my hand to help make that conference happen. Now, could the president do opposite someday than what he just said to me? Yes. Right. So, but with that, it was enough for me to say, I'm going to go and lean in, spend a little bit of time to help make this happen.
I got a question from someone who asked, how do you balance the contradiction of using centralized tools to promote decentralized vision, YouTube, X, Amazon, to reach more people, but you're promoting Bitcoin or, Nostr, for example?
Yeah. So again, this is one of those things that every single person is going to have a different view on, right? I don't, so there's tons of friends on the X still, even though I'm not on X anymore. Right. And I don't, and they're not bad people because they're on X. I just chose to spend more time of my time on Nostr. Right. The only reason I kept my X account is because sometimes I'll do spaces with somebody that is in there because it'll be a broad view, but I haven't posted there in a year and a half. Because I want to contribute more of my time to Nostr. And that doesn't make me better or worse, anything else. It's just a personal decision that I wanted to do that. And so if somebody else has a different personal decision, they can do that. And I think both are true, right? I think you could reach more people on X because more people are there. Right? And it's also true that you could stay there and not move any of your time to Nostr. Right? And keep going in that centralized system that makes it worse and you think you're making it better. So I think there's an element of truth in both things.
Talking about opportunity in this space, I think I see something that could be really powerful. I noticed a broader pattern where Bitcoin-only businesses don't seem to have clear onboarding or explainer or tutorial videos for clients. Primal's a great exception, I find, and Ben from BTC Session does a great job, filling the gap, but we can't all count on one YouTuber. I'm curious why the companies themselves don't do it in general.
They're busy doing their own thing where they're exceptional with. But by the way, that when you say that, if you see that problem, that becomes an opportunity.
For sure.
Like that's the point. The point here, and this is it's interesting though in this, and I know you're not saying it in that way, but it's interesting how many people look at these problems and just don't do anything about it. Just kind of say, oh, there's a problem. Why don't they do something? Why don't they do something when it's screaming at an opportunity? It's crazy.
All right. Well, that's great. No, I noticed I was like, that's somewhere I have skills. So if ever that could be something I could explore too. So
what I use as an example for to move your time to, right? There's a really great example if you have a box of skills there, because you could do it for not even very much money. I want to help you do this. Let me show you proof of work. Right.
Yes.
And what would happen if that proof of work accelerated that company and accelerated something you believed in to be able to do that? What do you think your proof of work would do to other companies that needed the same thing? So these types of things, there's opportunity everywhere.
I get asked quite often, how do I move my time into Bitcoin? And I think it's finding the crossroads of your passions, your interests, your existing skills, even if they surpass or are different from your current fiat job. It's really like, where are my interests and what can I bring to the space? And then just reaching out to companies or creating stuff or just doing stuff.
Totally.
You said most people project the present into the future, missing how exponential change imposes first principles. Is there something else beyond first principles that has helped you perceive the future without projecting the present?
Understanding people, understanding myself and how people say, all of the little lies that we tell ourselves, the insecurities, that love and belonging, all of those things, and that we want other people to change. We started with. We're measuring them. We're talking about them all day long, but not us. And we can't see where the hypocrisy ends to us. So when you understand that everybody looks like that and they have all of these things, and it just is, right? That's just the way the world looks. Then you can also understand why change is hard, why change takes time, and it filters one mind to another because each person has to go through the same thing. So, and when I say change is hard, it's not necessarily you can go from a 0 to 1 in an instant, and we see people do that, right? But most people carry the same pattern over and over and over and over again. And so if you know that, and you think in first principles, and you understand people, you really understand people, then you can better. When I say people project their present into the future, they also project their present, what they're doing and what they will do in the future from today and what they do today, without seeing that their own changes describe a different future. So once you start to analyze all of those things, I think understanding people is probably a really big part of how I'm able to see things, insights.
And where did that come from? Your understanding of people? Was it just, I don't know.
Understanding myself. It was the seeing things and seeing things in other people that I questioned, and then realizing that a lot of those things were in me too.
If you look ahead a decade or two in human terms, what kind of world do you hope your work, your book, and these conversations will have helped create?
We've talked about this lots, but when I say 8 billion people in service of 8 billion people, and how crazy a concept that is, it's not a crazy for me at all. I see this perfectly clear what this looks like, and it's so impossible to even for most people measuring from the existing world, because you could never see what we never built, what the world would have looked like. We measure from what it does look like. And so what that would mean is so beautiful. It's so powerful. You'd solve problems faster and faster and faster. Maybe you would be aligned. Everyone would be aligned. You could only win more by serving other people more, by building value for them, and everyone you'd be playing an infinite game. That's the world I see, and it. I know you mentioned me or my work or anything else. I think this insight's always been there. I think it's, you wrote about this too, right? It's been buried over time from the same broken system, but I think in many of the religious leaders, right, it was there. I think it was in Nikola Tesla. I think Henry Ford saw it. I think Buckminster Fuller saw it. I think many people throughout time have seen the same thing, but we never found a way to actually manifest it. And I think now we can manifest it.
It's the first time in 5,000 years. I understand why people are like, that's not possible. It's been 5,000 years of history repeating. If we look back on it, we've never had that opportunity before. So it would sound absurd in a way. Yeah.
So the beautiful thing about what you just said, that's why it just is, right? Of course it would look like it was absurd to a whole bunch of people who would be measuring the past to measure the future. All their past is informing their future, and their past never had this change. They don't understand how it's not just a change that's there. It's a change that they can take an active part in to create a different future, but they don't know. So of course it would look like Of course, it would look like if you're out on this ledge and you see it, that you're out on this ledge, you're the crazy person. And yeah, and just so you know, sometimes I wonder, am I? Maybe I am, but it feels pretty good.
Sometimes I think, would it just be easier if I didn't know any of this and I never went on this search for truth, if I didn't care? And like,
I
I
don't
would
think so.
still choose this. Yes, I want to know.
Yeah. If this all ended tomorrow, and let's say it got centralized or broke or something like that, I don't think it will at all, because of but let's say it did. I did every day the exact things I wanted to do with no with reckless abandon. Like I love what I get to do. I can't believe I get to do it. So why would I worry about that when I actually can influence the different world?
Beautiful. The first interview we did together, I asked you, when will we be on a Bitcoin standard? And your reply was so great. It was, you will be on a Bitcoin standard when you choose to be on a Bitcoin standard.
So you
And
are on.
and now I am. It was so, so amazing. And that really struck me. And now I'm asking from a different perspective. I guess by 2040, Bitcoin issuance will be 99% complete, roughly the same time span as the internet took for mass adoption. And maybe the answer is the same, but do you think we could be on a Bitcoin standard by 2040, given the exponential progress of technology and everything that's happening?
We could be, but it would be a low probability event, I think, for the world to be on Bitcoin standard at that time. And I'm not saying that, like, when most people are going to answer this, they're going to say what price is it at that time and in the fiat world, right? Like, you're asking a different question, and I know you're asking a different question. For us to be in the Bitcoin standard, I would say here's a higher probability event. You have a reset of currencies, a inflationary event in currencies, and then people start over, and Bitcoin trades sideways for a long time while they're just it goes way up in those currency units and then stays sideways for a long time. Then people believe in the other system again because it doesn't have to steal as much of their energy. um, and then they get rug pulled again and again and again. That's a higher probability event than being completely on the Bitcoin standard by 2040, because for that to happen, we would all have to change to do it to that. And think how few people are actually doing that today. Could it accelerate at that rate? It's not a zero probability event, but there's a lot of 8 billion minds is a lot of minds to change.
For sure. And okay. I was going to ask you if you saw 2140 differently. Like, I mean, it's a lot further.
2140, I do see differently. Yeah. I see what you wrote about. I see beyond money. I see that it's inevitable that that's where we get to. And by that time, if we looked back at this epoch of history, your consciousness, how you would think at that time. Could you ever imagine being there and then going back? Right. It'd be us looking at the cavemen today and saying that's it's from that spot we look so different.
So different. Yeah, I see that. I see that too. Okay. I had some random questions, and this touches on what we just discussed. It's more, let's say, a little bit more theoretical conspiracy, if you want to put it in that bag, but like, it's not serious. It's more like just playful questions. But have you heard of Three-Eye Atlas?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, it's like a comet flying through space right now. It's an interstellar object. It's had a bunch of like strange properties compared to what we've usually seen. It's the third one that we've observed. And it just turns out that NASA is not taking any pictures right now because the government shut down. So it's just the timing's a little weird. And it had a strange tail coming through, and it turned blue passing the sun, which apparently math is really not my great strength, but technically it shouldn't be turning blue passing the sun because it means it's hotter than the sun. So there's just been a lot of weird things happening with it. My question is, like, do you think we're alone in the universe?
Ooh. I don't think we're alone in the universe, but I think that and I understand that side of it, the kind of aliens visiting here and what, I don't think it looks like that. I
Mm.
think that I think there's a higher probability that it's us, right? That um uh yeah, I think the foundation of the universe is fundamentally consciousness, and that and we're an experiment within that.
Yeah, I personally, I feel like they're already here at a vibrational frequency that we can't see, but there would be a manifestation event potentially just to say, "Hey, we are in physicality," because people are used to like that sci-fi, like, you know, alien figure or whatever. Like people want to see it in real life. Because what I was thinking was, okay, 8 billion people in service to 8 billion people, but do you think the rising of human consciousness could open us up to a broader, possibly intergalactic even connection?
So that's the answer. Like that is that is that when I said everything's one, I think that's the answer. It's actually it's consciousness, and that can travel, not your physical form, that can travel across space and time.
Yeah, I
In
think so too. Yeah. Uh, okay. Oh, just about AI. In November 2023, you had a super interesting talk with Preston about JeffBot and AI projects. And yeah, I was curious if it's still active and what you learned from that experiment.
And I didn't keep going because I didn't need to keep going on that. But now I'm using agents and different agents for a bunch of stuff. My son created a AI company. He's 20 years old, and I'll give you an in his AI company. He's helping build agents for companies. He created a tool because he didn't because he was calling people and then he was doing business for them and he was making more calls. So he said, well, I'm not going to do this anymore. So he created an agent that found the types of businesses he wanted to meet. Then he created another one that went to the executives of that and their social media accounts and dumped it all into a file. Then he created another one that sent emails to them and then another one that measured the response rate. And then it still wasn't having the response rate what we want. So he created another one to LinkedIn, warmed up email campaigns and everything else. And he has for a while, I think now it's 9.7, but for a while he had an 18.7% response rate. This thing's just always on. He has all these leads coming in. It's nuts. And
That's
so
wild. Yeah.
that, and it's why people think like the people that are engaging with these agents don't know he's not talking to them. So now think about it the other way. How many things are you interacting with, or how many things will you be interacting with that's an agent that you don't know?
Mhm.
Right.
Are you using agents, Jeff? Because I don't know how you like. It feels like you have unlimited energy. Like I don't know. Okay. I was curious because I did hear the podcast where you talked about your son working on AI and stuff. If he mastered AI and Bitcoin, which is what you told him to focus on,
Yeah.
what would you tell him to study next? I know they're big topics, but
It's the same thing I say to everybody. Find the thing that you just love doing, that you can provide value and do that. And so that's just one of my sons. My daughter's in psychology, and she's super special. Not she's in Bitcoin too, like her genius is a different genius, and she's just a really great kid. And my youngest is well, loves fishing and skiing, everything. And he's gonna be just fine. So it's yeah, it's funny how different they all are, and how they're all going to find the success in whatever they deem success.
it's beautiful that you nurture that in them. Like you see their genius, and then you just like fan the flames of that and just let them fly. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Sometimes you skin your knee, you make a mistake and everything else, and you find out, okay, I don't do that differently next time. Yeah.
All right, thanks for being such a great just example of, that.
Thank you.
So I didn't think I'd get so emotional on this podcast. I'm so sorry. um, okay, I guess we could wrap up, Jeff. You made a big life change recently, moving from Canada. I was just curious how the transition's been for you and your family.
It's been pretty remarkable. Now, you know how I go into things, so I think through things pretty carefully, and so uh, pretty carefully. That should be an understatement. But so we have such a close group of friends, family, everything else in Canada, like crazy close. So I knew that would be challenging. So we just had to listen. This isn't about money. This isn't about anything else. This is designing more flexibility. So we're just going to make sure that we do whatever it takes to stay close, fly out family, fly out friends, do whatever it takes. And so, but it's been awesome. It's been really good.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. I know you said that you were keeping flexible just in case, is there somewhere that you have in mind for your next spot?
Um, I probably 2 or 3 places in the world. One of them will stay at we get their home where Kevin Blake House and Trust. So we'll spend 3 months of the year in Canada, at least this point. The and then probably 2 other places. And then travel between maybe one other place, but then travel a lot of the time, kind of between those places and others.
Awesome. I love being in Portugal now. It's been amazing. I'm so grateful to be here. I definitely keep an eye out just because it's Europe. You got all those digital IDs coming. At least the CBDC is on the side now. But yeah, I'm just staying flexible too right now. I'm keeping open.
Yeah, and Portugal is one of those ones that's high on our list, and Italy, Switzerland, Portugal, those kind of those are high on our list. But we're also watching what's happening with Europe too, which is crazy.
For sure, for sure. I know you mentioned you haven't had much time to work on your next book, but I imagine that ideas are still forming in the background. I was curious to know if any themes or questions that you're exploring right now are coming up in possible writing.
Um, It's stuff that we're talking about. It's stuff that a deeper so I found out that as I wrote that first book, that it helped me. Um, I ramble a lot. Do you know this? Anybody that listens to my podcast, I start somewhere, I stop, I go somewhere else, and sometimes I wrap it all up and I get to the point. but writing writing a book forces me to not do that and get tighter with my thoughts. So maybe it's cathartic and that, and some of these conversations I could go to a deeper spot in a way that I could communicate it by writing the book.
Honestly, your talk in DC was so good, Jeff. It being tight and like synthesizing your thesis. I've sent it to so many people. I've got other Bitcoiners like, Daniella, did you see this? I'm like, yes, I'm sending it to everyone. Like, it's great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So listeners can still find you on Noster and at jeffbooth.ca, right?
You bet.
Awesome. Great. I'll link to it in the description below.
Okay. And listeners should be buying your book. That's what
Oh,
they should be doing.
thank you.
Hey, this is Daniella, a week after talking with Jeff. I'm still processing the depth of this conversation, but the most powerful takeaway for me at the moment is this. By trying to get others to see Bitcoin, we are paradoxically delaying adoption. Detachment really is the way forward. It doesn't mean not caring, it just means trusting that others will embark on this journey in their own time, from their own perspective and understanding of reality, if they so choose. I love how Jeff said to celebrate being early. There truly is so much opportunity and beauty in Bitcoin. I wanted to leave you with the questions he asked. Where in your life are you pushing away the very thing you desire? How can you join others in building greatness, as Jeff said, leading through example? How can you bring your passions, joy, and energy to contribute to the Bitcoin space? I'll be making a video soon about living on a Bitcoin standard and contributing our time to Bitcoin. If that resonates, consider subscribing. My channel's all about Bitcoin education, FOSS, and I guess now I do a Jeff Booth interview every year. It's so awesome. I'm so grateful to Jeff for his work, patience, and open vulnerability. This video is ad-free and unsponsored, a gift of value for value. If you'd like to support my work, you can get a copy of my book Beyond Money at Daniella.io. Thank you for being on this journey with us.